karma so available on Zoom and on YouTube. I just came from a session with Venerable Renee, by the way. So it's amazing, you know, I mean, what is offered on the internet at the moment in terms of live streams or Zoom or whatever, in terms of Dharma teachings, I mean, it's really difficult to choose. I don't know if you heard His Holiness is going to give 2 days of talk on the 16th, 17th on the Nagarjuna text. And in Italy, in Pomaya, some of you might be familiar with Pomaya. It's like Serkom Rinpoche, I think at the same time he's doing 10 days or something like that. And so many things are happening. It's really, really freely available. I mean, freely available. Again, you know, if you can make contributions when you are participating financially, that would be very nice, because here we in Bern, we don't have any financial problems for the moment. And I think we can, you know, we can pay the rent until the whole thing opens again. But there is big centers like, you know, retreat centers, which have to upkeep the whole thing. They have employees, they have to pay their rent. So try to be considerate and think about generosity, you know. I mean, it's like, instead of kind of feeling so noble that you are giving something, then you can think, oh wow, I have so much opportunity to practice generosity, which is, generosity is I think it was Boaz who said it once, it's the economy of the heart, you know, because when you the other practices, it takes quite a bit of time until they kind of kick in, until they give you some results. Whereas generosity, when you give freely, you feel rich. And since we all want to be rich, and so you have an immediate result actually of, but it's, for Western people, I think it's very difficult to really practice generosity freely. Because we don't really trust the law of cause and effect. We kind of, you know, we're always a bit afraid that we're giving too much, or that we're doing too thing, or something like that. So when I see Asian people giving, they give with much more joy, actually, in a way. But you could think about mitzvah also, you know, so then you don't have to think karma, you just think mitzvah, and then also maybe it's important that, since we're talking about generosity, it's important that that you're not giving too much, okay? So that then you are unhappy about it. But it's also important that you're not giving too little, because if you want the joy of generosity, it has to be in a way that you are happy about, to be able to give whatever you can give. Yeah, so don't give too much, but also don't give too little. So can you imagine it, like the world, if people were so grown up and kind of responsible for what they have, knowing about either mitzvah or karma or whatever, and that there's no price tag on the things, but everybody would give as much as they could afford. What do you think? You can, when you kind of touch the space bar, then you can say what you think. You have no opinion about this?
Yeah, I have. I think it's true, because I see right now, for instance, I'm not into Shita because I got stuck in Israel in a way. Okay. And I see that they are really struggling right now, you know, because they, you know, they are dependent on the courses that they take, the minimum that, you know, you've been there, yeah, more than I do. And right now, you know, they're thinking about how to be able to get money so they can run the place just for the salary for the people who are working there for years. And, you know, just for that, it's quite crazy what the situation is going on right now with a lot of centers. Like Yaki said, that chin raising right now is closed, and they had to fire people, and that was quite, you know, and we don't know what's going on with the centers. It's, yeah, it's a situation that is.
This is what I mean, you know. Also, when we practice generosity, I mean, then try to see where is it needed most. This also goes with like practicing generosity and using wisdom. So if you know of any center like this, I think Dharma friends, they shouldn't have any problems because you're not really renting anything and you don't have any employees. So is Shanti Deva, I think. So then, you know, yeah, it's very, very difficult because also, you know, like the big retreat centers, they have people, they employ people to cook there, like for Tushita. I mean, I know I've been there for almost 20 years, I think. And these people, they come from Bihar, right, which is far away. So it's if Tushita would employ these people like any other Indian person hires these people, these poor people, because they pay them, usually they're paid day by day. So I don't know if you noticed or if you saw what happened when India was in a lockdown. And so everybody, all of these kind of people that are paid day by day, and you know what they earn today, this is the food they buy with this money for tomorrow. So there's no more work, that's it. The next day there is no more food. Yeah, so Tushita is not like this. I mean, Tushita and Root Institute, they're Buddhist centers, so they're giving them a proper salary so that the kids can go to school even, and even if there's not so much work, they can still keep them. So this is what I mean.
Yeah, and
it doesn't have to be a Buddhist organization. It can be something else, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was just wanted to say that also, just because you were mentioning Sarkar Rinpoche, also Geshe Namtak is doing a course from Zoom, collaboration with Jamyang London and the Land of Joy. So also for donation for those centers as well, if anyone is interested.
Yeah.
There is a link. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot. This is what I'm saying. I mean, this is the beauty about the situation. There is so much happening. I didn't know about Geshe Namdak, but I know him. I know him very well. I knew him when he was not ordained yet. So
really?
Yeah, he's one of the first Western, not the first, but he's one of the very few Western Geshes. And he's really beautiful. I mean, he's so humble and he's so direct and he's so normal, you know, yeah, so if you have the opportunity, that it's difficult to choose from at the moment. So, and make sure you're not getting an overdose also, yeah, so be careful.
Yeah.
Because also then whatever you hear is also good to put it into practice then after a while. Shall we do a short contemplation? Yeah. Sitting, coming into the present. If you can sit with a straight back, that would be great. Then if you want to keep your eyes open, that's fine. If you want to close your eyes, that's also good. Whatever you feel more comfortable. But what we do, the first thing we always do is to come into the present, so to be aware. Yeah, so it's always about this thing, we are not aware. If we would be totally aware, we would not be suffering so much. We're totally stuck in our own views. And we are full of desire. We have certain views on what we want. So this is what we're trying to explore in this reflection. But first, you know, be aware of where you are without looking around, but so that you can, you see the strength of your awareness. You don't need to look around in order to perceive or to feel or to know where you are. So first be aware of your surroundings without looking. So you feel that ability of awareness to also know without needing the eyes, for example. So you get the feeling, you get this, how to say, an experience of what it means, awareness. Awareness can do many, many things. And then become aware of your body. Connect with your body. And then the only moment that we have to live really is the present, but we're hardly ever there. We're lost in the past, worry about the future. So in order to be present, first you are aware that the body is sitting. Again, knowing that the body is sitting without making any comments about the whole thing. Just know in a direct and unmistaken way that the body is sitting, and get a taste of that awareness. Nobody needs to teach you to know that the body is sitting. Awareness knows by itself. Like this ability to know. Try to keep it. This knowing that the body is sitting. Whenever you lose it and you get lost in thoughts, just bring it back. Don't get frustrated, don't worry. It happens all the time. And then try to see first, how is the body? Is it relaxed or is it tense? So a very quick way, since we like to do quick things, at least I do, a very quick way to relax the body is when you just imagine that you're breathing with the whole body. Again, I know that we're breathing with the lungs, but imagine breathing with the whole body. That relaxes the body immediately, makes it bigger, makes it less tense. It gives space. Another good way maybe of being present is by being with the breath itself. And we hardly pay any attention, even though we know that if we can't breathe anymore, we die. And so if you're not so used to meditate and to have a stable mind and that the mind stays and rests on the object, you can use thoughts that have to do with what you're doing, which helps you to stay on the object. So for example, when you breathe in, you could think, breathing in, it keeps me alive. Then we notice that we have to breathe out again, because if we can't breathe out, we also die. So breathing out, it keeps me alive. So maybe for the beginning, it is easier for you to stay on the breath when you accompany the breath with these thoughts. So this is just a suggestion. You can find other ways, other tools to use. So then more and more you are able to stay in the present, knowing what is going on, knowing that when you're breathing in, and knowing that when you're breathing out, you're breathing out. Another good way is to bring joy into the meditation. Like the joy that we can breathe. So enjoy your breathing. You will be much more present. Like, for example, you can accompany it with the thought, wow, I can breathe freely. See, the problem is we take this for granted. But people who have asthma, for example, or people who live in very polluted areas like Kathmandu, they know the joy of being able to breathe freely when they can. Okay, so then when the mind has calmed down a bit, then we can start reflecting. And for example, we can think, or we can try to, again, to find this very deep sitting feeling or yearning that we have for happiness. For purity, for free of suffering, for harmony, for health. Try to connect with this. It's another thing we don't have to learn, we all have it. Everybody wants to be happy. So then there's certain views how one could get happiness. So the worldly view, or the view of most of the beings on this planet, or at least the humans, is having many sense pleasures, having an easy life, having many friends. Maybe having a good reputation, I don't know. So you check for yourself. I feel in myself this yearning for happiness and well-being. What is my view of how to get that? Don't give yourself too many answers, just really listen. You ask the question to yourself and then you start to listen. What do I really want? Or what do I think is standing in my way of being happy or finding the happiness that I would like to find? So when we ask like this, you probably or the ego probably comes up with a lot of answers. Why I'm not happy, my partner, my children, the situation, no money, the neighbor, the government, whatever. So since we are studying a Buddhist text, this would not be the Buddhist view. The Buddhist view would be that Happiness is in the mind. The Buddhist view would even be that the nature of the mind is happiness, space, love, compassion, wisdom. And the Buddhist view would be why we cannot live that potential of the mind is because we have wrong views. One of them is that we think that happiness is to be found outside. And one of the biggest wrong views is that there is an I, a me, that exists from its own side. And I cling to that I identify with this I. And if this I doesn't get what it wants, I'm using anger in order to protect it. Or I'm using desire. Both of them are kind of very strong minds that give us energy and direct us in a certain direction. Or I'm using desire in order to get what I want. And the Buddhist view would be these very minds of anger and desire, these two minds that we use in order to make ourselves happier, are disturbing or covering up the nature of the mind, which is spaciousness, love, peace, compassion, and wisdom. So we're using states of mind that by their nature destroy the happiness of the mind in order to get happiness, in order to be happy. That would be the Buddhist view. Now you have to check. Because now is contemplation, now is investigation. There's a lot of Buddhism is investigation. Do I agree with this? Do I agree that my anger is destroying my happiness? My desire is destroying my peace of mind. Desire for something that will never give me. Do I agree with this view? And so agreeing with it just up in the head, that doesn't really, it's a good thing already, but it doesn't get us very far. So we need to study the mind, and we need to study these emotions, mental factors, so we can experience that, it's true. When I'm angry, this happens. When I feel desire, this is how I feel. Through experience, not in the head, but in the heart. Okay, so do you agree with what Buddhism says? It's not to make you a Buddhist if you don't want to become a Buddhist, but in order to study this kind of texts, if you don't agree with that view, then it's very difficult. It's very painful to hear what you will hear. And not only will it not help you, but it, it's kind of, it can actually create some hindrances. So, so that was just to introduce you to the Buddhist view. Yeah, so one of the Buddhist views, that happiness is in the mind, it's not outside. And the way, the way we perceive the world depends on the state of our mind. That what we see is, it's not that it doesn't exist, but it doesn't exist the way that it appears. Yeah. And then you see, so many times we think we are unhappy or we're not well or whatever because people that we love or people that we're trying to help or people around us, we're trying to help them and then we can't. Or we see all this injustice in the world and all this, and then we get very angry, and then we think, oh, that anger is justified. And we think, we don't even think, it's kind of, it's more instinct, because if we would think it clearly, then maybe we would see how unrealistic that is. We think that if these people, if I could solve all their problems, and there would be more justice in the world, then we think that I would be happy ever after, isn't it? Yeah, or not? Would we, when we think like this, or we have this feeling like this, would we then instinctively also think, oh no, I don't think that's true, because then it's just another problem coming. In order to find out that this is true, you would have to go away from everybody and not see anybody and not hear anybody else's problems for a few months, sitting in a cave or somewhere, or in a hut all alone. And then you would see, you would still have problems. You would still not be happy. But the advantage then would be your excuse that you're unhappy because something outside would disappear. It's not there anymore. I was giving a talk at Tushita at one point because, when I was at Tushita, at the beginning, it was only young Israelis who came. Then maybe after 10 years of being there, of young Israelis coming, all of a sudden their parents came because they wanted to see what the kids were doing. So it was like, they didn't come alone. They always came in a group with, like Irit Lahav was leading them, or some other Israeli travel agents who had been to Dharamsala or whatever, and then they brought them. And so I would usually give them a talk. So we talked about anger, and or they asked me questions, and I said, well, isn't anger good, or something like that. Anyway, so of course, as a Buddhist, you go on and on and on how harmful anger is. And so one of them said, well, it's easy to talk like this. You are sitting here in Tushita, top of the mountain. Of course, you're not angry. I said, well, you can stay with me, for a week, then you will see that I'm also angry. And I said, why don't you, if you have time, you go to the top of a mountain for a week and see if there is no anger, if you are not getting angry up there. So that's the advantage of kind of really looking inside and really exploring this whole thing. Do you have a question, or do you have a comment, or shall we go to the text? Is this too many options for you to choose from, or what? Wow, so many Israelis and no opinion. What's happening with you? What is this coronavirus doing to you? Have you calmed down a bit in that time also? We have become quite quiet here. Well, since nobody is saying anything, then I guess you have absolutely no wishes. You are desireless. You are opinionless. You are content and happy with whatever will come. So you're almost enlightened. How wonderful. Oh, let's study the text. Okay. I told you, last time that we were saying, I do quickly look at the chats that come in, but it is a bit distracting, I have to say. And also because I read them out, because I assume it's a question, so I read them out. So if it's a personal message to me, don't do that, because it might be something that you don't want everybody to hear. So if you want to send me personal messages, you can. There's no need anyway. I mean, it's okay. Some of you I know, some of you I don't. But if you have questions, by all means. But I prefer if you ask them by voice than by chat, okay? So don't be shy. I never thought I would have to say that to Israelis. Okay, so Gal, can you give us the text, or shall I just read it? Maybe I can just read it, okay? Or what shall we do? Yeah, okay, here we go. So we did verse 1, okay? That we said whatever wholesome. So again, just to note, this is the chapter on patience. It's chapter 6. So it has 5 chapters who come before. I just want to mention that again, because if you single out chapter 6, then it's quite harsh and it's quite demanding. But don't forget, first he talks in the first chapter, he talks about the advantages of bodhicitta. So that we get, so that we get a yearning for that. So we feel, oh, wow, this is difficult to develop, but it has a lot of advantages if I take upon myself the hardships of developing it. It's not easy to develop bodhicitta, okay? And it's even more difficult to practice it. But so we need to see the advantages. So this is how he starts. And then the text also is written in a way so that he's talking to himself. So whenever you're not happy with what he says, that's fine, because he's talking to himself. Whatever you find helpful what he says, then you can use that for yourself also, if you want to practice, if you want to generate bodhicitta. And for those maybe who don't know, bodhicitta is the mind who says, I am sick and tired to be under the control of my negative emotions. I know what they are. Yeah, so we need to know what they are. It's not just talking. It's wrong views, attachment, desire and attachment, and then jealousy and arrogance and deluded doubt and so on. So you need to be fed up. You need to already have studied maybe the Four Noble Truths. Not just maybe, but for sure. So that you understand that no matter what I do, no matter where I am, I will always encounter problems. And the problem is not big from the problem side. The problem is big kind of in relationship, what is going on around me. So for somebody in Switzerland, and we have really, I mean, I think at the moment, we live in the best country that you can live in. I mean, we're so fortunate. Yeah. People get helped financially, and the small businesses and all this, and the government is kind of pouring out millions and billions and this and that, and they're really distributing it. They're not just saying it. So it's really incredible. But still, so in relationship, what for a Swiss person would be a problem, for an Israeli person would not be a problem, or for a person in India. An Israeli problem for a person in India or in Syria or somewhere would also not be a problem. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. So, but no, it's our mind who is creating these problems. Yeah, it's not the situation outside. This is it, because there's always something good in a bad situation. There's always something negative in a good situation. This comes from our dualistic thinking. So knowing that, and then knowing the causes of this, that it comes from our wrong views, and then on top of it, the negative emotions, which create actions, which create karma, and then our life gets difficult and so on. So those are the first 2 noble truths. So it's really worthwhile to study that before you jump into bodhicitta. And then to know, like the third one is the most important one, to generate the trust and the faith that we can eliminate all these wrong views and the negative emotions that come with it without having to suppress it and without having to live it out. And this is very difficult for us to generate that faith and that trust. That at the bottom or by nature, we are totally pure. It's almost not imaginable that you will not be killed the next day if you have no more negative emotions, because we need them to protect ourselves. I need them to get what I want. And I think we don't have enough trust because we don't pay enough attention on mind states when they are free of, well, free, more or less free of negative emotion. Yeah, we pay a lot of attention because they manifest very strongly when we have negative emotions, but we never pay attention, you know, how many times do you feel in a day like, oh, I have no anger? You know, I mean, consciously living it, being aware of it. Yeah, like we trained now to be aware of the body. We're not even aware of the body. Forget about being aware of a quiet mind, you know? Like I think I told you the other day, I got up and I was really surprised how well I felt. Yeah, like I said, like, wow, I feel so well. This is amazing. Really well, like really spacious, really well. Of course, then it fades away. This is, yeah. But to also to be aware of that so that we start to get a feeling how it feels to be free of negative emotions. So this would be the third of the Four Noble Truths. It's like cessation. These negative emotions have causes. Because they have causes, we can eliminate them. And then the fourth noble truth is the past. Yeah, so when you have trust in that, in these Four Noble Truths, then you can start generating bodhicitta. So Shantideva in his book or in this text that we study, first one is the benefit of bodhicitta. The second and the third chapters are, I need to prepare to develop bodhicitta, the mind who is sick and tired to be under the control of negative emotions, who wants to free itself from the negative emotions, and through that wants to be then of benefit to all sentient beings. This is what is called bodhicitta. A mind also that understands at the moment, yes, I can be of some benefit to some people, but I have much more potential to really get to know the past through direct experience, to know the past through direct experience, and then teach other people how to go on that path. Yeah, so that would be the intention. That would be the intention then. So that's not an easy thing to do. So Shantideva understood he has to purify his mind before he is able to pour in that love and compassion and wisdom that you need in bodhicitta. If it's full of dirt and if it's full of like self-cherishing, and we haven't even understood that it's the self-cherishing, like this interest on just me, myself, or my family, or my country, or my group, or my this, or my that, yeah, my friends. If we haven't understood that this is creating the problem, that we are making this distinction between me and them. Yeah, when we have me and my friends, it is us, which is okay, because I am not them and they are not me, but me and them and us is totally different. So when we dislike somebody, then we make, or when we're not interested in somebody, somebody comes damning, you know. So I think it's a Vipassana person, a Vipassana teacher who said, maybe it was John Kabat-Zinn, who said, we have to stop using and damning. Do you understand what I'm saying? Us and them. So we're constantly using and damning. Now let's see. Would somebody like to say that in Hebrew? Using and damning. It doesn't exist. It's not a real word. It's been invented. I mean, none of the words are real. All of the words have been invented. Yeah.
I can try to say that if you want.
Huh? Yeah, okay.
Basically you said, אמרת שאין הפרדה בין אנחנו לבין הם. אז בעצם כולנו אחד. זאת אומרת, כי ברגע שאנחנו רואים את עצמנו מופרדים ממישהו אחר, אז יש הפרדה.
Is that correct? No, okay. I was expecting that, but this is, in Bali, you were very, very courageous because I knew that people would not some would agree with you, some would not, and this and that. But everybody understands this using and demming. Like, I deserve happiness, or my group deserves happiness, them, they don't. Again, we don't have it so clearly in the head, but we have it in the guts. We have it in our belly. You know, there's some people we are really happy when they're happy, and there's some other people we are totally unhappy when they're happy. Is that true or not?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. If you don't agree, then please say so. Yeah. If you don't say anything, then I guess you agree. So if you want to become a bodhisattva, I mean, if you want to practice this, then you first work with this. You enlarge your mind that you wish everybody happiness and you wish for everybody to free from suffering. But this using and demming sits so deep in us that it's really, really difficult to change that, because you can't just change it in the head. I mean, in the head is the first thing, but your reactions will still be totally different. Okay? And so we work on this until the thought, may all beings have happiness, and the causes of happiness and our action will be kind of the same. Yeah? Spontaneously, uninterruptedly, and effortlessly. This is this is the state of a fully awakened mind who has the interest of all sentient beings in his or her heart, like parents have for their children, spontaneously, uninterruptedly, and effortlessly. You know, a normal mother doesn't need to make effort to love her children, or a father or a granddad. It just comes. It's just there. But it comes from the idea, this is my child. This is my grandchild.
So basically you're saying without any condition, we should see everyone as our own child.
Yeah, this is what a bodhisattva does. No, you should, I'm not saying you should. I'm saying if you want to go on the bodhisattva path, this is the training.
Yeah.
It's the training. If you exclude one, then it's not bodhicitta. Then it's very big compassion. If you include everybody else, but exclude one, then it's huge compassion. But if one is missing, it's not bodhicitta. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's different methods to develop that, of course. Yeah. And then one of these actions that, or the actions that you do as, or the trainings that you do as such a being, is to train into 6 perfections. When you have seen, when you have understood that this is a good thing, this is what I want, and then not to underestimate the difficulty of that, so that you're not, you know, running into a burnout or you're totally destroying yourself or whatever. Yeah. So many of you know what bodhicitta is. For the ones who don't know yet, then you know, Lamrim course or other things is like there's many courses which kind of teach you the preliminaries, what you learned before. Like this is what I started today also, by understanding the Four Noble Truths, by having this yearning, I want to be free from suffering, and then by seeing that everybody else is in the same boat. Yeah, because that's another big misconception that we have, and I've talked about this, I think, in all the talks I gave you and I give to other people. We feel separate from others. We feel like an individuum. Individuum means not dividable. We are very dividable, and we are a part of something. This is why we used Einstein, who says it with his scientific words. A human being is a part of what we call the universe. But through a mental illusion or a mental mistake, he sees himself as separate. You see, again, you know, we made this one exercise, I think it was last time or before, I told you to touch your pants or your skirt or your t-shirt or your sweater, and just to have some idea how this thing that you call mine, how it is connected to other people or other beings. How can you say that this is not connected to the universe? But it feels like that. It's my skirt. So it feels like that. And then we feel separate. And this is why we're having this mess in the world. If we would see ourselves as a part of the world, then we would act totally differently. But because we see ourselves separate, then it's me first and for me the best and all this. So coming back to the text, in the second and third chapter, he's starting to prepare the ground to develop bodhicitta. So he's doing a lot of purification by confessing, and he's doing a lot of offerings to the Buddhas. He's taking refuge. He's doing supplications and all this. Yeah. So we are, by the way, you know, some people are quite shocked because there's this view that Buddhism is not a religion, or doesn't have a creator God. But we do ask things from the Buddhas. We ask for blessings, we ask for inspiration, we visualize them, we make statues, we see them. Why? So that they can kind of mirror our own qualities in us that are dormant, that are hidden. This is why we use so many images. Yeah, this is why we do so many visualizations of visualizing a Buddha or Chandresik or Tara or whatever, because every time we visualize one of these Buddhas, it nurtures our own Buddha aspect that we have, that this specific Buddha is representing. This is why, you know. But now, of course, if you are, again, it is a problem for Jewish people. So if you have heard and you have integrated that statues are no good and you shouldn't have statues, then it's not helpful unless you can get rid of that view. Yeah, so Buddhists use it as a help, as a method to attain that goal. But then if you have a view that statues are a sin or you shouldn't have statues, then that's not helpful. Then you have to find other ways. Okay, then chapter 4 and 5, which comes before chapter 6, he's talking about ethical conduct, like of non-harming, and he's talking about developing attention and awareness, or conscientiousness and awareness. To really, he encourages himself to really get to know the mind, to really get to know directly what is a positive state of mind, what is a negative state of mind, what kind of antidotes can apply to my negative states of mind, what kind of thoughts can I use in order to develop positive states of mind. So chapter 4 and 5 is all about that. So it's very inspiring to read. In a way, it's inspiring to read when you trust your own Buddha potential. It's not very inspiring to read when you don't trust it, because you think, oh my gosh, I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and again I've done this, or why did I do, you know, then you start to doubt yourself, and you start to you start to beat yourself up, which is also, it is not Buddhist to beat yourself up. It's also not Buddhist to feel guilty, okay? It is Buddhist to be full of confidence that at the basic I'm okay, at the basis I'm okay, I want to develop, or I want to find that potential that I have. How? By the methods of the Buddha. Or what is preventing me from doing this is by having these negative emotions, and one of them is anger. So when we come to patience, so he especially is talking about anger. But we must never forget, behind anger is always desire and pain. So even though he kind of addresses anger directly, but it's also good sometimes to go a step beyond. So now, Carl, I'm sorry, can you give us the text again? Actually, it's just a few pages. Everybody could print it out, but then we need paper. So like this, we don't need paper. So whatever wholesome deeds, such as venerating the Buddhas and generosity. So again, venerating the Buddhas is for a Buddhist. Venerating something that brings positive karma when you respect that object, when you know the object. Venerating something that you don't know, that might have some kind of small effect, but not a very big effect, because the positive energy that comes from venerating something is created in your mind when you find this object as being venerable, to be venerated. You understand what I mean? Yeah. So it's not so much, the Buddha is not omnipotent. He cannot help us out of samsara or take us out of samsara from his side. We have to be open to receive the blessings of the Buddhas. Then they can give us blessing. From their side, they would give us blessings all the time. But if we're not open, they cannot bless us. So anyway, whatever mitzvahs we have done, we could say like this, such as venerating the Buddhas and generosity that have been amassed over 1,000 eons, will all be destroyed in one moment of anger. So I think we talked a little bit last time to really define what anger is. And anger is always a wish to harm, or at least the wish for this other person that I'm angry at not to be happy. Or when the person is a bit unhappy, I mean, we're not total monsters, but we see maybe, the person receives some criticism, it makes us happy. Does that happen sometimes? When you hear somebody criticizing somebody else that you dislike, makes us happy? No? Okay, great, fantastic. Just check next time, okay? So anger is a wish to harm, not wanting the other person to be happy. And the way he talks about anger here, I think maybe I would already call it hatred. Obsessively thinking about the person. And hatred feels really justified. Hatred, you cannot negotiate with hatred. It's absolutely impossible. Sometimes when you're able to distract the person who is angry, you're able to negotiate with them a little bit. But when they're full of hatred, I mean, there's no way that you can give them another view, right? So this is what is probably meant here, when not wanting to let go of the anger or the hatred, feeling justified, this is a good thing, I have to be angry and like this. So then a lot of positive energy, a lot of positive karma gets destroyed, or at least if it doesn't get totally destroyed, at least it cannot ripen. Yeah, because this is one. Now we come to what are the disadvantages of anger? So then the second verse is, there is no transgression like hatred, and no fortitude like patience. Thus I should strive in various ways to meditate on patience. Okay, I have the German translation here. Sometimes it's good to have different translations. So the second verse is more like, there's nothing that is more negative than hatred. Because when it says here transgression, again, it seems as if somebody has been saying to you, you're not allowed to get angry, and now you're transgressing what you have been told. This is a bit how it sounds, but this is not what it means. So what it means is like, there's nothing that is more negative than, and actually in German it says, yeah, here also hatred. There is no fortitude like patience. Sometimes it says in the English translation, there is no austerity like patience. And in German it says, there's no better renunciation than patience, because hatred you need to renounce. You really need to want to give it up. And we just had a teaching of Geshe Tashi the other day for us here, because we're having the study group. And he said, if you want to develop patience, you have to feel it in your guts that you really want it, because otherwise it won't be possible. Otherwise, you start to suppress and you start to fake that you're not angry and all this. We need to really address it, and we need to have the courage to see it and to admit that, yes, I have anger and I have hatred. Yeah. And not to underestimate the task that is lying in front of us. So thus, I should strive in various ways to meditate on patience. So the first thing that we start to see, I don't know if you remember, there's 3 kinds of patience, or patience with 3 kinds of objects. So the first thing that you start to see, that we practice with different things, and the first thing we start to see is to see our habitual reactions. So the smallest kind of patience, or the easiest to practice patience with, is with inanimate objects, situations. It's too hot, it's too cold, I have to wait, whatever. When we're not feeling joy to do something, when we feel kind of bored or something like that, then very often we get angry at the situation, or let's say impatience. Impatience is also some kind of anger, like it becomes very tight in the chest. We get we're in a bad mood. Yeah, when we're impatient, we are in a bad mood. So it's a form of anger. So that's the first thing, is to see our habitual reactions to things we don't like. And most of the time they're totally exaggerated. Yeah. So that's the first thing we start to see. And what we start to see, how it makes us suffer. And then is future verses is what we can do against this. So again, let's be clear about this. Like at certain situations, yeah, maybe anger is even appropriate, but not hatred towards the person. This is the thing. If you get angry at the situation, but not at the person who is creating the situation, then okay, because anger also gives you a lot of energy. Okay, so we need to be really clear what anger is and what it is not. And for that, you need chapter 4 and 5. You need to have this ability to watch your mind. You need to have this ability to really see your motivation behind the whole thing here. Why am I doing this? And you need to have learned to be honest with yourself. Yeah. So not an easy task. And how do you practice chapter 4 and 5? Is by sitting down and practicing shamatha and vipassana, watching your mind, watching your thoughts, doing reflections and all these kinds of things. So Shantideva is actually, when he says meditate on patience, he's encouraging us to change these habitual reactions that we have to situations when they are not helpful. Then another object of patience is not to harm back when we are harmed. That's the second kind of patience. And the third kind of patience is to be patient with our Dharma practice. So that's good to know. If even in the text you can read, you have to be patient when you're practicing, because otherwise you will not get anywhere, because your impatience and your hurry will cover up the beauty of the mind. Okay, so number 3, my mind will not experience peace if it fosters painful thoughts of hatred. I shall find no joy or happiness, unable to sleep. I shall feel unsettled. Have you had sleepless nights because of love? Not attached love, okay? But because of love is, maybe just to define love, I think we don't need the text for the moment anymore, Gal, so we can see each other again if we want. Okay. Because I find it more easy to teach when I see you than if I don't see you. So my mind will not experience peace. It fosters painful thoughts of hatred. I shall find no joy or happiness. Unable to sleep, I shall feel unsettled. So this is one of the biggest disadvantages of anger, is that you cannot enjoy anything. And again, you don't believe me, because anger feels, we enjoy our anger in a way. We kind of, we become a bit more strong, and we have a lot of self-importance. We feel it's justified and all this, but this is kind of perverse happiness in a way. And on top of it, we're happy when when somebody else suffers that we don't like. But you cannot enjoy peace of mind. You cannot enjoy a good meal alone or with somebody else. You cannot even enjoy your favorite music. You cannot read your favorite book. You cannot see your favorite movie. Have you ever noticed that? So that is one of the advantages, because we want to have happiness. Again, enjoying happiness through sense pleasures, it is not a sin. It is okay, if that's not the only interest that you have in your life as a Buddhist. If that's the only interest that you have in your life as a non-Buddhist, it's totally okay. That's fine. Many people live their lives like this. They run from one pleasure to the other. And some of them, I have to say, they're quite happy and content, but they need always something else. They cannot be without. But once they have all these things, because they have enough money to pay for it, they're quite happy. They're quite okay. They're not, they're not depressed. Some of them are, but most of them are not. Some of them are quite happy, so it's okay. We need to know the happiness that comes from sense pleasures in order to then try to find a deeper kind of happiness. Because also it's very difficult to practice meditation, sitting down, watching your mind when you're not happy, because this is exactly what it happens. Not only you cannot sleep, you can also not sit and meditate when you're angry, because your mind is constantly glued to the object. You cannot bring it back to your breath, because it kind of goes, ooh, like repeating the story, what happened and how bad it is and how bad this person is, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So it's very bad for your health, actually, anger. Suppressing it is bad for your health. Living it out is also bad for your health. Both of it. Yeah. So before we come to how to deal with anger and how to dissolve it, first we have to see the disadvantage of it, so that we see it as an enemy. It's part of us. We don't identify with it, but we have it. But we need to see this. This is why I'm not happy, because I'm angry all the time. This is what we need to understand on a very, very deep level. At one point, I think it was also in Israel, I asked somebody, how are you? And she said, So I said, okay, what's wrong? And so she said, well, my expectations are too high, she said, or are not met, or something like that. So I said, well, why don't you lower them? And she looked at me, and she said, oh. So 1 week later, her mom, I met her mother, and she said, what have you said to her? I said, why? She said, well, she's so much happier. So you see this whole thing about, we have all these expectations that the world should do what I want the world to do. We think we don't have it, but we have it, because that is why we get upset, because when they're not met, we only see that we have them when they're not met. So next time you get angry, maybe this is your homework for the week until next week. Because that's a very good, very quick antidote to anger. Is like, when you get angry, you try to make a step back and you try to look, which of my needs did not get fulfilled? Now, that doesn't mean, now some people then think now they can go around and tell everybody what their needs are, and then they have to fulfill their needs, and then the anger is finished. But why it is an antidote to anger is because out of being, you know, when you're angry, your mind is glued to the situation or to the person. Yeah, and then starts to generate more thoughts and more thoughts, how bad this person is, how difficult the situation, and why did it happen to me, and why did he do it, la, 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 la. Yeah, this is what anger is doing. So it's kind of, when you allow the mind to stay with the object, then it's like pouring fuel on the fire, because you give anger all the good reasons to be angry, because what anger says, it is true, but only in one direction. Yeah. But when you don't put the mind in another direction, then of course, then the anger is totally justified. So when you start to go, okay, which of my needs did not get fulfilled? You're doing this out of compassion for yourself, to really see, hey, what's wrong? Which of my needs did not get fulfilled? So the anger can a little bit kind of, you know, calm down. And then you start to think, okay, so they don't respect me. Very often that's about it, you know. I mean, you will really try to, you know, because especially when the anger is quite quick and quite big, try to find many reasons why. I mean, try to find how many needs did not get fulfilled. So then anger kind of dies down, and then you go like, okay, I have all these needs, but does the world really have to fulfill those needs? What makes me think that other people have a duty to fulfill my needs? Is that a right view? Because then you remember the meditation that we did when we said, you know, I, me, very special, everybody has to fulfill my needs. And then the other one is like, oof, I'm just a tiny, tiny particle of this in this universe. And most of you said, I'm the tiny particle in the universe that then, it's a lovely dog. You see, sometimes also when you're angry, get an animal, look at the animal, and, you know, I mean, they have such unconditional love. This is amazing. You can shout at them, you can scream at them. Of course, they get angry, they get frightened, and then they go and they look at you like this. But the moment you smile and you stop screaming, they come wagging their tail, and it's okay. They're not angry at you for being angry at them, for not respecting them, for not fulfilling their needs, you know, or you forget to give them food, you know. They're just waiting, or maybe they're looking at you, but they're not getting angry. And when you give them the food, even 3 hours later, they're still very happy. Yeah. So on one hand, the animal minds are much happier than human minds because they're not holding on to these negative emotions. Also, the dog probably doesn't worry about, will I get food tomorrow? He will not spend sleepless nights thinking like this, you know. If he gets food, he's happy. If he doesn't get food, he tries to go and find some, but he's not worrying about the future. I think, I don't know, maybe not, but thank you for showing me the dog. It was a good example how we could be also by, you see, the dog gets frightened when you're angry at them, or maybe he understands something, and sometimes you need to be a bit forceful with dogs because otherwise they're totally unruly. But they're not holding on to this. They're not getting hurt by this. Yeah, maybe they're wiser than we are because they understand it was really necessary, or something like this. But definitely, kind of, they do react with fear, but then that's it. They let go. Yeah, some dogs are being beaten when they were puppies, and then they start biting also. Yeah, Tushita dogs. I don't know if we still had, we had a black one like this who would bite just about everybody. And everybody thought it was my dog. It wasn't my dog. She just slept in my room. I didn't bring the dog in. Fred and Maya brought him in. Oh, no, it's not true. It was the couple before them. It was a Dutch couple before them. But anyway. So to see the disadvantage of anger, when you go into this, what of my needs did not get fulfilled? And slowly we start to understand, actually, everybody has these kinds of needs. How about if I try to fulfill the needs of others? If I start to respect others and all this. So that will be your task for the next week. And then I would like to discuss it at the beginning. We didn't discuss any homework at the beginning now because I totally forgot and I didn't write it down anywhere, what homework I gave you, because I usually give with the Bodhicharyavatara, I usually give homework because it's a practice text. It's not just a text to study, you know, and then you know all the points and the verses by heart and all this. This is a manual how to practice to be happy in a way, especially the 6th chapter. Is that okay with the homework? I'll write it down when we finish. So then we'll try to do. So lower your expectations that the world has to do what you want the world to do, and be happy that it's not worse than it already is, because it could always be worse. We can manipulate the mind into being more happy, less stressed. Yeah, if you constantly kind of habitually go to the negative sides and what is difficult, then of course you're totally stressed out. Yeah. But if you feel your mind is going to the negative, that's fine. But then go, okay, you don't have to make it more beautiful or easier than it is. Yeah, we're not manipulating reality here. We're just making it wider or broader. We're giving it also another point. Yeah, we're not saying that if my knee is hurting, I'm not saying, oh no, it's not hurting, it's okay, I'm just purifying negative karma or so on. I'm stretching my knee, I'm doing something. But if the pain doesn't go away, then I can think of something, oh, but it could be worse, because after I had the operation, it was much worse. And I didn't die then, you know, something like this. Because whatever the situation you are in, it could always be worse. And that's a really, really good method to calm down and to open up again. Because anger or impatience says, no, it cannot be worse. Yeah. So if somebody says that, don't go and tell them that, yes, it could be worse, because they don't want to hear it. All these methods, they are for you to be applied to yourself. Don't think now, oh, next time my mother-in-law is in a bad mood and she says, oh, this is so bad, I will tell her to think about something that is worse. No, this is for you to apply that to yourself. Okay. Do you want to have peace of mind? Well, then anger is the enemy for that, okay? Do you think you can have peace of mind and still have a meaningful life and still be there for others? Or do you need that, if you know, social workers and doctors, nurses, people who really actively kind of try to help people, many of you, or psychologists, many of you have these kind of jobs. Do you think that you could still be of help and benefit if you would have peaceful mind? Or do you think people will not trust you because you're so peaceful all the time? They won't think, what's wrong with them? Are they on Prozac all the time or what? You know, what are you smoking dope all the time that you're, you know? Do you think people would still trust you if you're peaceful all the time? Huh?
I think that some people find it quite annoying at times, you know.
Mm-hmm.
When you're being peaceful, then they say, you're faking it. You're not really peaceful, you know.
Maybe you are faking it.
Maybe not, though, you know. And
I'm
sometimes...
not sure. I'm not so sure.
Well, you know, you have to work on it. Of course, you should be aware.
Mm-hmm.
But when you are peaceful and other people around you, you know, they bring up, you see it with the politics in Israel now. I don't want to talk about it. No, it's really, for me, more frightening than the corona situation now in Israel.
Yeah, so you're not peaceful because you're frightened, isn't it?
Exactly. I became frightened of that.
But
For me,
again, you know, we must not, again, it's good that we talk about this. Being peaceful doesn't mean you don't see the situation as bad. You see it as bad, but you're not angry. You are able to talk about it in a very calm way.
I do.
And you're able to see all this from all sides and all the situation. And you can, if it's shit, then it's really shit. And that's it. I mean, what are you going to do? But also, you know, sometimes we have these discussions about here, you know, now in the internet, so the coronavirus, it does not exist, or it does exist, or the masks are helpful or not helpful and all this. So when people come with this and they're very agitated, I usually say, look, if I believe it, it does exist or it does not exist, it doesn't really change my situation. I think what makes us angry is when we feel powerless. Yeah. That this is what makes us angry, but then we can go a little bit forward, which I can, yeah, as a physiotherapist, they really feel and enjoy if I'm more peaceful. Yes, that's, I think, so true. If you're really peaceful, because sometimes we think we're peaceful, but we're not. We are just faking it. Or sometimes, and this is another danger about patience, so be careful. We're just glossing the whole thing over. You know, we go like, oh, it's my karma, so therefore it's okay. And we don't see that we don't want to deal with it. We don't want to look at it. We need to be able to look at it. Or sometimes we kind of, you know, think, oh, well, everything is impermanent, so then it will just pass at one point. Yes, that's true in one point. But if it's an argument because you don't want to go into it and you don't want to deal with it, then it's glossing over, and that's not what it's used for. Yeah. Or sometimes we go even worse. You know, people say, oh, well, it's just a projection of the mind. It doesn't exist really, doesn't it? You know? This is what people say sometimes.
This is escapism.
Especially the Buddhists. You know, it's not because things are empty that they don't exist. Things do exist on a conventional level, so never forget that. And on a conventional level, suffering is suffering. And it's not, you know, you're not going, oh, it's empty and but it can still exist. No, it does exist because it's empty. Because it's empty, it can exist. Otherwise, you haven't understood emptiness. I'm sorry if you go like, oh, but it's just a projection of the mind. Yeah. But emptiness shows you it has causes. And as long as the causes are there, and don't forget, you know, we all live, the coronavirus, I think maybe this is the first time on this planet that everybody is affected directly. It's wonderful. It's really wonderful. Everybody is affected by this little thing that we can't even see with our own, minds. So in a way, but it's like, what can we do? So I can remain peaceful by also understanding this is also being born at that moment here now. It's in my karma. I have created the causes in the past. What can I do now? Not to create more causes for such situations with planting more seeds which come out of anger and aggression and all that. Yeah. So then when people get upset about you because you're peaceful, then watch your peaceful mind. Are you really not getting upset about them because they are upset about you that you are peaceful? Can you bear that they are upset about you because you are peaceful with a peaceful mind? You know, these are the exercises that we're doing. Are we really so above everybody else and I can be peaceful in every situation? Or am I getting now upset about these people that are not being peaceful? Yeah, so these are the things that we are checking. And if you feel that it gets really on somebody's nerves that you are always so peaceful, don't show it. Don't say it, you know, just be it. There is a book by Thich Nhat Hanh who is called Being Peace. We have to be peace, not to talk peace. Yeah. And then to generate compassion for the people who get upset when you are being peaceful. And then maybe also tell them something that disturbs you. Sometimes, oh, this was too quick. What was it? Was it Gal, do you want to say? Otherwise I have
Sure.
to,
Yeah.
my mouse is not working properly anymore.
I feel that sometimes I'm using this peaceful vibe in order to take a moral higher ground, because someone is angry at me and I want to look like I'm not angry back at him. So I'm not consciously, but I'm being peaceful in order to deflect his anger.
Yeah, and we can, you know, we can feel this in others when they are faking something. So to see the same thing that we can feel it in others, then they can feel it in us. We just think that they can't feel it, but they can. And this happens on a more subtle level, I think, than what we usually do. So again, when I talk about anger here, I talk about this, you know, Shantideva talks about this obsessive anger. It's difficult to think about the person, even though the person is constantly in your mind. I had a very difficult situation. I have a few difficult, I'm glad I had a few difficult situations in my life with people. It's not that they were very harmful to me. It's just that they got on my nerves because they were totally disrespectful. It was here in the center. She was coming into the center all the time. She was living above, you know, she kind of took the whole place and took things from the group. You know, she would take an envelope from the group. I could make a huge thing out of it. She's stealing from the Sangha, an envelope. And I would get so upset because she would just take everything, you know, like in a kibbutz, but she's not Israeli, okay? She's Swiss, where we respect each other's properties. And sometimes I thought, you know, then again, I thought she's doing this on purpose, because I would be out, for example, the whole weekend for the teaching, and she would have the whole space for herself. I gave her the key. I said, you want to come down here, meditate in the Gompa? It's fine with me. I would come home 10 o'clock at night, pretty tired. She comes at 10:05. Can I come and meditate? And then sometimes I even lied to make her go away. And I said, oh, I have to make some phone calls. And she said, because there's no door here. I don't know if you see it. Anyway, there's no door. She said, you can go to your room to telephone. So you see, but she could have had the thing the whole weekend. So, but I managed with the 8 verses, I really managed to dissolve the aversion towards her. And it didn't happen gradually. Even though I was trying to dissolve that aversion towards her, but nothing ever worked until one occasion, and the aversion was gone, because I had worked so hard so many times. But I was with the 8 verses, and I had to give a course on the 8 verses, and just before I had to leave, she came, and again she wanted something, or I can't remember what. Oh yeah, I told her to do the water balls. She's a Buddhist. I told her to do the water balls on the altar, but I said, but don't use the whole saffron. Don't make, you know, the saffron water, don't make them totally kind of dark yellow. She says, oh, I'll do them the way I want them to do. You know, like this. It's like you couldn't tell her anything. So I kind of, when I walked out the door, I was kind of really like this. And I thought, because as you know, we take these people with us, you know. Do you see what I mean? With our thoughts, because it's kind of, we still think about the situation. So somebody came to pick me up with the car to bring me to the place where the course was. So I sat in the car, and in my head I said, I'm not going to take her with me. And tack, she was sitting on my lap, because this, I'm not going to take her with me. I already had her with me because I didn't want to take her. I refused to take her with me mentally. And so it was a course on the 8 verses. I think it was my best course I ever gave on the 8 verses. Some of you might know it, because I talked to myself, because I was so upset about not being able to let go of that anger and aversion towards her. Yeah. And then at one point she came again, and she was going through things, and she said, oh, this is mine. And I knew it wasn't hers. And I don't know where it came from. I said, if you want to take it, just take it. Because it was a small thing anyway. And then that's it, it was gone. And I tell you, it was like chains going, you know, like, because anger is so, it's keeping us chained. It really spoils your life. It spoils your life. You know, forget about the negative karma that creates and how it makes other people suffer. But with anger, we lose our reason, which is one of the nicest, the best human things we have. We can reason, the cortex, we can think, we can figure things out. We lost, when you're angry, you lose contact to that thing. How could she be a Buddhist? This must be a non-Buddhist asking that question. She's not a Buddhist. She's not a Buddha. She's just a Buddhist. You see, all the Buddhists are trying, and some are, we're at different stages. So as a Buddhist, it's not that you have to be compassionate, you have to be considerate. You are training to be compassionate and to be considerate. And as a Buddhist and not yet the Buddha, very often we don't see how we behave in the world and what we do to others. Yeah, but I can tell you another thing. She was so shamelessly without shame and self-concerned that sometimes I thought, maybe she must be, maybe she's a Bodhisattva who is coming to teach me something. Because no ordinary human being can be so totally unaware of how she is. But also, I have to say, she got thrown out everywhere where she was. Nobody liked her and nobody wanted her. Now, this you can call, but you're a Buddhist group. This would be a better question now, because we didn't really throw her out. We kind of tolerated her because this is what I also want. I didn't want her to be thrown out, but I felt that I was going in the same direction. I was unhappy when she was here. I was unhappy when she came. So a good question from Ingrid. I don't know if the question went to everybody or just to me. Yeah, okay. So a good question would be how you as a Buddhist group treated that very self-concerned Buddhist that does not fulfill the kind of imagination what a Buddhist should be. Yeah. So I think we treated her quite nicely. I mean, we were very, very careful what we said because she had a lot of anger and she would totally explode, and she suffered a lot. So what I did before I was able to dissolve that anger, I moved out. Because I could feel that I was on the verge of really getting angry at her and shouting at her. And as I said, you know, even lying, I didn't have to make phone calls. When she said, I want to come and meditate, and I said, I have to make phone calls. I did go to my room and make a phone call, but when I said I have to make phone calls, it was a lie. Do you see what I mean? Yeah, so at one point it was so difficult for me and it was so bad because she was so intruding and so absolutely not respecting anything. I packed my bag and I moved out. And I came to somebody lent me their studio. So because I said, look, I can't deal with it. I don't want to hurt her because I feel how she suffers, but I can't prevent from hurting her. So I still see myself. I had my bag. I went to that studio. I kind of dropped the bag like this. And I said, yes, I'm angry at her. And then I could start to work with it from the distance, not having her on my back all the time. Do you see what I mean? Because if these people are in your face all the time and they're able to push all of your buttons, man, it's so difficult to work with it. So if you have a possibility not to phone, not to WhatsApp, not to email with them, and to have actually physical distance and then work with it, with the physical distance, then that would be very, very helpful. If it's not possible to do that, then the future verses will, but what about a big fight with someone you live with? I don't know. Can you move out? No. Yeah, then the future verses, you can already start reading them. You don't have to wait until I explain them. The future verses will give you quite a few clues what to do. I think I gave you, no, I gave somebody else maybe that example, also had in the family a big problem, also anger and rejection and hurt and, oh, you know, it's crazy when somebody builds a family, when you have man and woman kind of getting together in order to build a family. I don't think anybody starts to get together in order to then have problems, no? I mean, the motivation is not, oh, I find myself a partner and we have children, so then we'll have problems and I can be a good Buddhist and work with the problems, because otherwise I don't have any objects to work with. I mean, that's not the intention, is it? The intention is to be happy, but then when you see what happens in the families, gosh, oof, you know. So this is for the people who would like to have a family and don't have one, like partner and children. It's possible to be happy alone. I think I'm a good example because, you know, don't make that, you think I am unhappy because I don't have a partner and I don't have children. That's not true, you know, because I tell you, it is easier to be unhappy alone than to be unhappy, be stuck with somebody in a family and you can't separate. That's much more difficult, yeah? And unhappy, everybody is unhappy from time to time. Me also, you know, this is it. But from my point of view, oof, much easier to be unhappy alone. What do these people think who are in a relationship? Would it be easier for you to be unhappy alone, or do you prefer to be unhappy stuck with the family? Huh? What do you think? No opinion.
I think I would like, I think that most of my life I thought until today maybe that I thought that life would be easier alone, and I find that like it's not a matter of being unhappy either alone or with people. It's a matter of how you can help yourself to be happy, both alone and together, and people can lift us. Like even if you are living with people who are completely out of their, like I live with my family and every single member in my family is completely out, non-emotionally balanced at all. And I find that they are helping me to practice, and I'm not
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's good. So it's exactly as you say, it's very true. Thank you very much. It's like, it really depends how you see the situation. You see, somebody who is alone has different problems than somebody who is with the family. But each of them thinks that the other one has no problems. This is the thing, yeah? And then when we are alone and we think I am unhappy because I'm alone, then of course you are unhappy, yeah? When you could think that, well, you know, I could be in a family and I could have a lot of problems and not having the strength of mind as you have, because not everybody is that strong who sees it, well, they make me practice, because that's totally true. That would be the right motivation, because, like, you know, liking somebody who's really easy and who agrees with you all the time and who does what you want them to do, that is very easy. That's not a big deal. But like loving somebody who is really a pain in the neck, this is something. And then if we learn to practice with these people, it's okay. We don't need to take the biggest one. But if you learn to practice with these people, also, you don't have to be afraid of people anymore. Yeah, you can approach everybody and they are not able to disturb your peace of mind, because who is disturbing your peace of mind is you yourself with your views, not other people. But we give them the fault. Like I said, you know, this woman, even she was not here, I was upset about her, but she was not even present. I mean, how ridiculous is that? But these habits are so deep sitting, and we think that is so normal to think about somebody and be upset about somebody, even if they're not here, that we just leave it, and then it becomes deeper and deeper, and it becomes stronger and stronger. Okay, shall we do a short? I hope that the internet is not going to go again like last time. It really just went, and it said blue light and something is wrong with the network. We have to shut down. And it's like, oh, so sorry about this. Do you have a question about what we said though, before we do a final kind of sending out light meditation? Or opinions? You can have opinions here.
I have a question, if it's
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I mean, because we talk also about to be able to put boundaries, right?
Yeah.
Without being angry, try
Mhm.
to anyway.
Mhm.
I'm mixing it up,
Mhm.
but to put healthy boundaries to people, to say until here, you know, to protect ourselves also, to have compassion for ourselves when we are not capable, especially in situation that you have to stay with these people.
Yeah.
And you cannot walk away because you are in charge of things.
Mhm.
And especially when, you know, Dharma centers can be a fertilized ground for this, you
Yes.
know, and when you have expectation, I guess, that people would behave in a certain way because they call themselves Dharma practitioners and so on. And you see, even when I'm saying this, I see how I'm judging them in my mind, right?
Mhm.
But it's so hard sometimes. And, you know, I find myself this year just try to back off, you know, and walk away from situation when people are behaving in a very unkind and not Dharma in a way, what I call it for me. But then I was wondering, like, where do you, because then I was, you know, angry at myself for not saying, hey, that's not okay, you know? So I'm finding myself caught up between this. Even now I have a friends, okay, and they are in a place when there is one person that want to keep the distance, although they are together, they don't see anyone else, but because the regulation is like this, so she wants to keep the distance between everyone. So everyone behave in this way and start to sit separately from each other because of her, because they don't want to, you know, hurt her, but they themselves are suffering because they cannot sit next to each other and chat like a normal people because they want to help her. And so it's sort of like you know, she's been the victim here, and by being the weak and the victim, she makes everyone behave in the way that, you know, her suffering world. And so they suffer as well. And it's just, you know, where do you find a balance? Where do you are able to put boundaries in a healthy way?
Well,
But
I mean, you know, Maya, it's good to talk about the things, but sometimes it helps and sometimes it doesn't help. And sometimes it's good to talk like quite forcefully, because also I had the situation, also at the Tushita at one point, we had one person who was in a bad mood all the time. And she was very sweet and very nice person, but every time she had one target for her bad moods. Yeah. And so until a long time, we were very good friends. All of a sudden I became her target. And so I knew how she suffered. She has bad mood, she has headaches, she has depression, she has all this. So I thought, okay, if it helps her, I'll just be the target for a while. But then after 2 months, I got really upset. And then I went down to the office and I said, look, I am sick and tired to be the target of your bad moods. Until now, I didn't say anything, but now I'm starting to get angry, so I can't guarantee for anything, you know. So, and I left, I went up to room number 5. Room number 5 was my room up there, you know, in the long thing. So 10 minutes later, she came and she cried and she said, look, I'm really sorry. I know what I'm doing and all this. And so I thought, oh, good, this really worked, okay? So then a few years later, you know, the targets change all the time. So then again, I was the target. So I thought, okay, I'll just wait a little bit. And then I do the same thing. Okay, so I waited a bit. I went down again, said, hey, look, same thing's happening again. I'm sick and tired. She didn't talk to me for 2 months afterwards. So you see, I don't know what to do. I can't give you anything to do, but putting boundaries, okay. There is somebody sitting in this audience who said at one point to me, you know, there's always this thing, I have to protect myself, okay? It's like, that's what the ego says. So there's somebody sitting in the audience here who at one point said to me, you know what? The best protection is an open heart. That's so true. An open heart first for yourself. that I can't, as I did, I moved out. I don't know what I would have done if I couldn't have moved out. But I knew that this was the only, I had to separate myself from that situation. Yeah. Also Tushita, by the way, I moved out for 2 months at one point because I was so angry at everybody. So it's like, and then I came back because I had worked with it from the distance. So this is the first thing always, if you can go away from the object. If you cannot go away from the object because you're living in the same place, try to minimize the contact, but with the intention for you to be able to have an open heart towards that person, with the intention for you that this person cannot push your buttons anymore. Okay? But it is very difficult, especially in a stressful situation like Tushita, because Tushita is extremely stressful with all the courses that you have and all the activities that are going on. And I used to criticize it. I said, we're doing too much. We're not taking care of people anymore here. You know, but it's like, yeah, ooh, more and more and more and more. So I think I know what you're talking about.
I need to have a question or a comment. So
yes.
thank you for thank you for.
Is that okay? You know, setting boundaries is okay, but try to integrate the others also. And don't forget, it's samsara. And what I once did also, I thought, okay, this is just a movie. I have this role here of the nun who is not treated in the right way. How do I want to play that role? So I didn't take it so personally. And also, you know, this a bit obsessive harmony. It has to be harmony. It's a Buddhist center, well, the whole thing. It's sometimes, no, it's not harmonious. What really helped me to transform with that other person here that I said was so difficult is when I admitted loudly to myself, yes, I don't like her. I'm angry at her. I think it was that. Yes, not even angry. I don't like her. Then I knew. Then it was with me. Then the ball was here and I knew, okay, now you can work with it. But from the distance. Yeah. Gosh, I wish I would have a good recipe how to deal in these situations. But this is what Dharma centers are all about, because in Dharma centers, one should be able to talk about the whole thing. But sometimes there's no time to talk. There's no supervision in Dharma centers. You know, every other place where people work together like this, there's supervision. I don't know why Dharma centers haven't come up with that yet, because they think we're all Buddhas and all realized. Yes, Miri.
Yeah, so thank you for your story. Was this about this person? It's very honest and very very exact, like very perceptive to really look at what would happen to all of us. But yeah. I must say, and I really appreciate and admire how selfless you are to share this so openly. But but I must say that it's really daunting. You spend all your life studying and meditating. If I meditate half an hour a day, I'm very happy with myself, you know. So how can, like, you know, if like people that meditate all day long and study and like really devoted to bodhicitta. So what's my hope for myself with my anger? My anger is hopeless.
Okay, Miri, what makes you think I meditate the whole day?
Well, more than me, I'm sure of that.
Well, yeah, okay. Well, I mean, you should. I tell you a story. Another one of my, after maybe 10 years of being a nun, I very often go and visit my ex-boyfriend with his wife, and they've just became grandparents now. They're all over the place with their first grandchild. It's so nice to see them. So maybe after 10 years, you know, because I became very good friends with his wife also, because I didn't want to have him. I was happy that he was married happily. And so that's why I could go there without any jealousy or whatever. And we became really good friends also with the children. So after 10 years, maybe he looked at me, we were discussing something, or I don't know. And he looked at me and he said, wow, it's amazing how much you've changed. I think now I could live with you. So you should have known me before, you know. I mean, you should really have known me before. I was a total slave also of my bad moods. I was an alcoholic before becoming a Buddhist. I was full of fear all the time, which I still have. I still have these fears, but I learned how to deal with it. So after 7 years, I went back to Switzerland to see some of my schoolmates, and then they asked me, okay, now you've been in India for 7 years, and as you say, you know, meditating the whole day. I don't meditate the whole day. I'm a very bad meditator. But I'm trying, so that's okay, you know, and I have joy, I have fun. This is the main thing. But I still have all my negative emotions. So so she said, so now what? You know, you've been sitting on your cushion for 7 years. Now what? You have a diploma or what? Or, you know. So I said, no, but so then she said, so what? What's your achievement, or what have you accomplished? I said, now, when I get angry, I know it the first moment. And she said, is that all? I said, yeah, but that's a lot. Because when I catch it at the beginning, and I tell you, it's getting better and better and better. At the moment, I think there's not one person in this universe that I wouldn't be happy to meet, that I know. And that was like, you know, before, there's always a few that I would avoid and not wanting to see. Because I couldn't help it. I just didn't like them. They were just getting on my nerves. And if you feel that somebody around you is like this, I tell you, these people suffer. They're not doing this on purpose. And this goes for everybody. Nobody wants to have bad moods. Nobody wants to have anger. This is why I'm saying nobody creates a family in order to be angry at them. Or as Hagar says, you know, to be totally out. It just happens because with my bad moods and with my anger, I had no tools to work with it. I had to get drunk to be normal. Also being drunk, I had the perfect excuse. When I hurt somebody and I kind of knew that I again hurt somebody, I could say, oh, I was drunk, I'm sorry. Then when I stopped drinking, I had to start watching what I said. But for many years, it didn't work yet. I would still just blurt out whatever I felt like saying. So you see, I only practiced like 30 years. That's not much. No, I'm serious. I'm serious. And yeah, if you ask me, well, what happened in these 30 years, I feel more normal. I feel a bit more relaxed, a bit more normal. For me, it's good enough. And I was able to let go of the dislike towards my mother, thanks to the practice, which was the biggest achievement, I would say. Only just before she died, but before she died, I was able to call her without any thought of, I have to call my mom. So, you know, if that's the only thing that Buddhism has done for me, good enough. And also now I can deal with my anger much better. You know what, the stories I'm telling you, this is quite a few years back. So there is hope for everybody. There is hope for everybody. And as the Dalai Lama says, you know, it's no point to look back like 1 week or 2 weeks, but it's okay to look back like a few years. And very often what I find also, like, then you are an angry person, you have dislike for others, and then you start hating yourself. And that's not Buddhism. I had to learn this really, really. It took me a long time to understand that I'm not a bad person because of what I'm doing, and not to hate myself. It took me a long time. And I think it was thanks to the love of my masters, who would, whenever I would come, you know, angry and this problem again and this, and they would just laugh. They're monks, so they're not hugging you, but they would just laugh. And it was like a mental hug. When Kirti Chenja, he would just burst out laughing, you know, when I came with my big problems. And the whole thing fell apart. And that was it. What I also learned with Buddhism is to relax. To relax. And even, you know, even despite of all my fears and all this, you know, when I say I don't like teaching, people don't really believe me, but it's true because I'm really afraid every time I have to give a talk. I have fears. But then I sit down and then it kind of something happens. But still, like, you see these emotions, they're very, very deep sitting. Yeah, so it takes a while, but every time we see it, and every time we don't judge ourselves, every time we don't identify ourselves with that negative emotion, it kind of chips away a bit on the tendency or on the strength of it. Yeah. But I still have fears and I still have anger and I still have this and that, but it doesn't hold me so much anymore. It's okay. The main thing is that we see it. It takes a long time to be enlightened, you know? So that's why we need to be patient, yeah, and not wanting. And, you know, sometimes they say it's not the goal, the path is the goal, or the way is the goal, or something like that. What is it called? The main thing is that we're not giving up and that we're trying. That's the main thing. Then it's good enough. Also, what we have to learn is good enough. Because then we relax. It took me a long time to understand if I want to transform my mind, I need to learn to relax about the way I am. It took me a long time to understand that. And then this is what we do at the beginning of the meditation. Go into the body, not relaxing the mind. We cannot relax the mind. But the moment we relax the body, the mind relaxes also. To really go, you know, step by step and open up. And sometimes it doesn't help. Sometimes no matter how much you do and you apply all the antidotes and anger is still there, then relax, go away, take your mind away from the object, at least mentally. Don't allow the mind to go down the same alley again and again and again and again. Distract yourself with something nice. I think this is also what I said. If you find yourself that you have a problem with anger, be nice to yourself. Give yourself the ice cream that you want, or the chocolate, or the sleep, or the TV, or whatever, but with the intention that your anger can heal. Because if you pull yourself together, and you deny yourself every pleasure, your anger will just increase. So be kind to yourself. Otherwise, you cannot be kind to others. And be proud about yourself. Be happy about yourself. Listen, you've been sitting here for 2 hours listening to me. Isn't that, you know, you're so patient. Isn't that wonderful? Maybe you have heard something that might be helpful. Maybe you have heard something that you find totally not helpful. So you can stop going in that direction. You can look for something else. This is why at the beginning I said, you know, Buddhism is not something, you have to check if this is really what you want and if it's really for you. This is what Buddhism is all about. It's about, yeah, seeing, is anger really harmful? In what way? What is the disadvantage of anger? But with the patience of being patient enough, you know, not, okay, what do I do now? But for the mind on a deep level to understand, anger is not helpful. It destroys the happiness. Not getting angry at yourself for being angry, with a lot of compassion for yourself for being an angry person. Okay?
Thank you.
Very much.
Shall we? Yalla, yeah, exactly. Let's go to sleep. Now let's do some kind of kindness meditation. That also, you know, just wow. Just a thought. I'm a good person. Dare to believe it. We need to have the courage to believe that we're a good person. It's sad, really, is it? But that's the way it is. So sit in a comfortable way if possible, but with a straight back. Oh, we did 2 verses today. How wonderful. And connect with the body again. Close your eyes if you want. And when I say try to sit with a straight back but comfortable, the comfortable is just as important as the straight back. So sometimes also being comfortable, you can kind of use your out breath. Again, you see, I'm giving you a lot of options so you can try out what works best for you. So you breathe in, and with the out breath, it is as if you're letting go of something that is bothering you. Just like, ah. Like, for example, we can let go of the thought, I don't have to believe everything I think. Such a relief. Whatever appears, it's not necessarily true. I don't have to believe everything I think. Oh. And then I'm sure you all have beings or people that inspire you. Like for me, of course, my teachers, my masters. But for you, it might be, I don't know, God, Jesus, Mother Teresa. People who are strong. People who are peaceful, though. People who are wise. So just think of them. And by thinking of them, we nourish our qualities to be like that. Think about somebody that totally inspires you. Somebody that you would like to have their qualities, and try to visualize them with you as if they are actually here. Because you see, when we think they're actually here, they can bless us, they can touch us. And you can see them smile at you and be happy with you, because they can see that we're all trying. They're not expecting results. The same as like mothers and fathers. It's enough if the kid is trying. And we feel nurtured, we feel supported. We feel touched by their love. And then we always work with light. So you can see that by them smiling at us or from their heart, light is pouring out and entering your body or entering your heart. You know, the spot where it hurts, which is usually in the chest. And we try to protect that hurting spot, sometimes through anger, which kind of, you can visualize that this spot of light that we have in our heart also, which is our Buddha nature, by the light that comes from this other person, of that black thing that envelops that beautiful mind that we all have. We all have the potential to love. We all have the potential to be wise and compassionate. It's our nature. It's always there, but it's sometimes covered. So if you think that, the light is not kind of unifying, the light from the person that you respect or from the being that you respect can also be the Buddha, or Chenrezig, or Tara, enters your body. And usually we have it entering through the crown and then sinking down in front of the spine. It's called the central channel, into our heart chakra. And in case it doesn't kind of unify or it doesn't want to go in, you can imagine there's a kind of black cover made out of concrete or something like that, covering it. And then when the light comes, it just dissolves it. Or you could use ice, our warm, open heart is covered through ice, which seems to be protecting, but it's hindering the warmth of the heart to come out. So the inside warmth of our own heart and the warmth of that loving light that comes into us is melting that ice. And so you can feel how this light, which is our own potential for love and the love that is fully developed of that being in front of us, how they unify and how they grow, because love is boundless. When you are really loving somebody, you don't have any boundaries, you don't need them. You're open space in all directions. So you think how this light is growing. Wants to benefit yourself, wants to benefit others. It fills your whole body. And then it pours out through all your pores, going in all the directions. Bringing love, compassion, and wisdom, what we need in order to deal with these negative emotions skillfully. But also kind of giving us the wisdom to understand, I'm not the Buddha. I am not God. I'm not Jesus. I'm not Mother Teresa. I'm not the Dalai Lama. I wish I would be, but I'm not. So if I make mistakes, it's okay. If I have anger and because I'm overwhelmed with the situation, it's okay. If I can't solve the problem, it's also okay because it's samsara. But may I be able to keep my heart open in whatever situation. May I be strong, healthy, loving, and peaceful. May I be able to live my life with joy and ease. So it's so important that you have these thoughts first to yourself and then you send it out to all others. May all beings be protected from physical and mental harm. Just a wish for that, just the aspiration is enough. Don't go, no, but they're not. We're just developing the attitude that we would be happy if all beings were protected from physical and mental harm. It's a beautiful mind state. The immune system against anger, kind thoughts. May all beings be strong, healthy, loving, and peaceful. And may all beings be able to live their life with joy and ease, because we all have the potential to do that. And may I be able to help them do that, to discover their own potential, to be relaxed, joyful, and totally at ease with whatever is. Okay.
Rita, thank you very much.
You are very welcome.
I'm welcome.
Don't forget the homework, yeah? Next time you get angry, okay, what were my needs that did not get fulfilled? And then, oh, other people also have these needs. Maybe I can try to fulfill their needs. And don't go overboard, not with everybody you meet, okay? Be gentle, be loving, be kind, be easygoing. What I wanted to say about the meditation, you know, these meditations, I kind of make them up as I go along. So sometimes I get a bit lost in the whole thing. So I wonder if it was really meaningful. Then yeah, you're very welcome. So sometimes I get off somewhere, and then, so anyway, that's how it is. So
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
yeah,
you.
you're very much. I also saw a short clip of His Holiness today also, where a young girl is asking him about, you know, what about people who are harmful to others? What about getting angry at them? And then he said, well, if you get angry at them, you don't give them a chance to become better people.
Yeah.
Because they will get angry at you for being angry at them. So I thought that was very, he said, if you don't get angry, it's not necessarily they will become better people, but if you don't get angry, then there is a chance that they will transform also and become better people. I thought that was very nice. You know, by trying not to get angry at somebody who's harming somebody else or harming you, but thinking, I want to give him a chance to become a better person. Yeah. And never to forget, everybody has the potential to be good. And when you start looking for that potential, and we start looking for the goodness in people, you will find it. If you think, no, people by nature are bad, you will never find their goodness. Yeah. But there is samsara, it's difficult. Okay, well, I wish you a very good week. And as I said, please don't forget the homework.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hopefully I see you next week.
Yes.
Yes, bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Anila.
I have no control over you guys. So you have to go. My mouse is not working anymore. I think my battery is finished.
Good night.
Thank you a lot.
Good night.
Have a good rest. Also, that's another thing. For anger, you need to rest. Because if you're not rested, then anger door is wide open. Yeah.